Hello, this is Mike.
Yes, hi. It's Larry. Your tenant over on Elm Street? I'm not paying rent.
The eviction moratorium. What is it? What does it mean? Do I have to comply? Is it bad? And how the heck does it affect me? Yes, the CDC eviction moratorium is in full swing. And if you're a landlord with tenants, you're going to want to watch this one. Back a few weeks ago, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued an eviction moratorium for non-payment of rent for certain renters. This order went into effect when it was formally entered into the Federal Register on Friday, September 4th, 2020, and is set to expire at the end of the year. While this is an unprecedented move on the part of the CDC, it was seemingly done because Congress was unable to reach an agreement on any sort of stimulus extension. So what is it? Glad you asked. First, let's define moratorium. To do this, we'll head on over to the old Merriam-Webster dictionary. According to Merriam-Webster, moratorium is a noun. It's a legally authorized period of delay in the performance of a legal obligation or the payment of a debt, a waiting period set by an authority, or a suspension of activity. Fun fact, a synonym for moratorium is doldrum. I think that sounds more fitting. Doldrum. They should have called it an eviction doldrum. Moving along. Based on the above definition of moratorium put together with the word eviction, we can tell if you're a landlord and you rely on rent to, I don't know, pay your bills, this ain't great. So does it affect me specifically as a landlord? Another great question, and probably. Let's dive into it. You can read the full text on the federalregister.gov website, which I've linked to in the description below. In a nutshell, it covers the following renters. The individual must have used their best efforts to obtain all available government assistance for rent or housing. The individual expects to earn no more than $99,000 in annual income for calendar year 2020, or no more than $198,000 if filing a joint tax return, or they were not required to report any income in 2019 to the US IRS, or they received an economic impact payment, a stimulus check pursuant to Section 2201 of the CARES Act. The individual is unable to pay the full rent or make a full housing payment due to a substantial loss of household income, loss of compensable hours of work or wages, a layoff, or extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses. They are using best efforts to make timely partial payments that are as close to the full payment as the individual's circumstances may permit, taking into account other non-discretionary expenses, and eviction would likely render the individual homeless or force the individual to move into and live in close quarters in a new congregate or shared living setting because the individual has no other available housing options. Basically, if you're an average landlord, you're subject to this moratorium. Can my tenant just stop paying rent altogether? You are full of outstanding questions today, my friend, and no, your tenant must fill out a declaration form found on the CDC website and attest under penalty of perjury that the above mentioned are true and accurate. They must turn this form into you. What if my tenant is damaging my property? Can I still evict them? Spot on question. Yes, this does not stop all evictions, just monetary related evictions. So if your tenant is damaging your property, they're a danger to the other tenants, or they're breaking other lease terms, this moratorium does not stop them from being evicted. Does my tenant get a free pass on rent for the next 3 months? No. The rent is still due and you're still able to charge collection fees, late fees, etc. So cut to the chase, Mike. What can I do as a landlord? Well, not a whole lot, but there may be some hope. RentalHousingJournal.com just posted an article in which 2 attorneys recently joined the National Real Estate Investors Association for an online discussion to help landlords and property managers understand how to best deal with this. I'll link to the article in the description below, and I won't get into it as I want to stay in my lane, and attorneying just isn't my lane. I could prove it in the disclaimer at the end of the video and also in the description. My attorney, whose lane is attorneying, makes me do it, so I suggest you read the article and then discuss the ideas with your qualified legal professional. What happens if I decide to disregard the moratorium? Don't. Violations by a person of the order are punishable by a fine of up to $100,000, 1 year in jail, or both if the violation does not result in a death. If it does result in a death, the violation by a person is punishable by a fine of up to $250,000, 1 year in jail, or both. If that crime is committed by an organization, it's punishable by a fine of up to $200,000, 1 year in jail, or both if no death occurs, and if a death occurs, that fine goes up to $500,000, which sounds to me like exactly zero fun. Also, if you're a renter watching this, don't just submit those forms and lie, because if you do, that's perjury, and that's a federal crime that is punishable by a fine or up to 5 years imprisonment, or both. Bottom line, it's best for you and your tenants to work together if you find yourself in this position. A tenant isn't wise to not pay because the money will accumulate, and as well as collection and late fees, it will all be due eventually. Direct your tenants to local, state, and federal resources that can help them pay their rent. Final question. If I'm a landlord or looking at getting into landlording, should I just bail now? Probably not, but maybe. Unfortunately, I don't have a crystal future telling sphere, and every time I ask my magic 8-ball, it just tells me to ask again later. Here's an actual picture I stole off Google Images of someone else's magic 8-ball saying, ask again later. So I cannot say for certain. What I can say is that if you look back at history, every time real estate investing looks grim for most, there are a bunch of folks that profit big. You should look at your personal situation and circumstances and make the decision that's right for you. By the way, if you ask your magic 8-ball for real estate investing tips, probably shouldn't be investing in real estate. Don't say I didn't warn you. Have you already had a tenant turn in these forms? If so, comment below. Do you have other ideas on how to deal with this? We'd like to hear from you. Explain them in the comments below. And are you a tenant who's tried to turn in one of these forms or has had to turn in one of these forms? Share your experience below in the comment section. As always, I hope you found this landlord tip semi-useful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell to make sure you're updated on new content when it comes out. Comment below with any questions you have about this or other topics, and leave suggestions with future topics you would like covered. And please, as always, share this video with anyone you think may benefit from the information. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Mike's Semi-Useful Landlord Tips. 2020 and is if you work together and find an actual picture. Have you already had a tenant? The eviction moratorium is a noun. It's legally another great question, and probably. So does it affect you punishable by a fine of up to 5 years imprisonment, or both? A fine of 5 years imprisonment?